what's the matter? I said, it's raining hard, and I told him I never had an occasion where the plane didn't land or take off. He said, oh my God, he said, I did more than I thought I did. So he said, when's your next plane? I said, they said it at 5 o'clock, and they said they had reservations for that plane. So I said, okay, go to town, go to a movie. So I did that, and I came out, the sun is shining and everything, and we took off. Well, he came back, and he showed us the statistics. That one winter, it rained more that winter than the previous 15 winters.
Wow.
They all knew about it. Well, these phenomena happen all the time.
Did they write about it at all?
They wrote about it, but they said, that it was a coincidence. It was just a coincidence.
Yeah, the newspaper articles, in most of the newspaper articles, they mentioned that Reich had been doing this work, but they would always say that this is just basically a crackpot claim, and it was just a matter of coincidence.
Also, I'll bring that in. I wasn't going to bring it in. He was also very much interested, maybe a lot of people know, on UFOs. He called them EAs, energy,
Enigmas.
yeah, something like that. He'd never talked about them as well. At times he would say maybe they are people from other planets or other galaxies or whatnot. But all he knew is that there were these lights where their movements didn't conform with the stars or the planets or whatnot. And he took many, many pictures. And, I don't know where those films are. Maybe I could show them to you someday, David. I don't know. Anyhow, and he also was able to correlate the appearance of these. He called them lights. He said, all I can say is they're lights. And they seem to have a bluish thrust every so often. And when they appeared, there wouldn't be that much haze the next day. Or no, when they appeared, there'd be a lot of haze the next day. That's right. And he felt, and again, he said, please don't go back and tell the people in New York. He said, maybe they'll really think I'm crazy. And he said, I have a right to speculate, He said, maybe there are people from other planets and whatnot that are just dumping their waste in our atmosphere. We're having that problem now, right? What are we going to do with all our waste? And so people do talk about maybe the moon. This is just happening recently, right? Put our waste on the moon, Mars, maybe someplace else. Well, at that time, he didn't even know about that. But that's the speculation. So one night, he's looking around to the horizon, and he says, I see them again. So where? So he pointed there, and sure enough, you could see them moving. And they were not planes, they were not stars. And he would point the space gun towards them, and they would start wobbling, and they would move again and wobble, and they'd disappear, and a few more would come, wobble. And that was that, each time Dr. Reich went into something new, he said, oh, he's gone off the deep end now. So that was that, and of course, soon after that, he couldn't go any further because he had the trouble with the government and landed in jail.
If it's okay, we're going to take some questions because we're getting towards. And I know.
All right, I just want to. This won't take too long. I thought this would. I always. It's sad, really. The last time I met Dr. Reich was 2 weeks before he went to jail, and he was living in Washington, and he saw each one of us, the ones who really trained with individually. And I, spoke to him and all like that. And one of the questions, he said, "Do you have any questions?" I said, "Well," he said to me, he said, "I probably won't be seeing you anymore." He said, "I don't see how I'll come out of jail alive." He said, I can't imagine being incarcerated. It just wasn't, not been my life. So I said, okay. I said, looking back, what would you do differently? He said, I wouldn't publish as much as I did. He said, I didn't realize that it was just too early. The structure of people could not take my work. And he said it was only on the insistence of T.P. Wolfe. I recognize T.P. Wolfe. He was his translator. Excellent therapist. In fact, he with what was his name? He wrote the book on psychosomatic medicine. Dunbar, yeah. They wrote the first definitive book on psychosomatic medicine at the Psychiatric Institute at Columbia, and he was very good. He kept pushing Reich, and so Reich, well, he wasn't seduced. I mean, Reich did. He said, I wouldn't publish it anymore. So, and as we know, in his will, there's maybe about 1,000 pages of a manuscript which has never been published. And in his will, he said, I don't want this to be published for at least 50 years after my death. So he carried out that end of it. And then he also told me at that time, if he had the ability and the power, he would take all the books that were out and even the therapists and put us all into limbo. So wait till our generation is out, and then people, the new generations, 40, 50 years ago, would be able to deal with it better. I think he's wrong because I think, certainly from a sexual standpoint, our society has advanced tremendously. I mean, when you consider 52, 55, you couldn't mention the word masturbation, even in therapy almost. I mean, classical therapy. And now, of course, we're way past that. And he predicted that in the progress that was brought on by the sexual revolution, there'd be a lot of chaos, which we are seeing now. But if we all survive that chaos, the middle layer of stuff that's coming out, since the top layer is removed, those who survive, many innocent people will go down, and those who survive will be the better for it. And at that time, the atomic bomb specter was very much in evidence. He said, unless we blow ourselves off the face of the earth. And that was at the end when he told me he wouldn't publish, and something else he said. Oh yeah. And, well, this is a personal thing. When I went to Dr. Reich, I was real radical. In fact, I was a member of the Communist Party. And, of course, in Europe, he had a lot of contact with the Communist Party, although he went to Russia for about a year studying the whole thing. We became very disillusioned. This was about 26, 27. But I was the only one of the doctors who trained with him that had that sort of a background. And so we talked about it. And I guess he had to get it in with the last thing he said to me. He said, Dr. Sobey, there's such a thing as a good communist. He said, but there ain't any around now. They're all fascists. And then he says, and I'm still a Marxist. Now, I kept it quiet for many years, remember? And it got to the other Baker and his group. And he said, that's absolutely ridiculous. Dr. Reich said that. You see his latest writings. Well, they didn't understand what Dr. Reich was writing about. So, still a Marxist, but he never... I just threw that out there. That was his last statement. Me. Okay, any questions? I mean, yeah.
You alluded to Baker's group and their departure from Reich. And
No, they didn't depart from Reich. They left the doctors, the ergonomists. He left the ergonomists. That's it. That was his privilege. Nothing wrong with that.
it wasn't a philosophical or...
No, he just went off.
No, there was nothing philosophical. Yeah.
Now, on the tape, Dr. Wright says that cancer is a prenatally acquired disease.
Well,
and apart, I just want to know, apart from exterior causes such as smoking or alcohol or working in a coal mine.
Not apart from that at all, Steve. He never proved it, but again, you know, he said a child is in a uterus, and if the uterus is armored, which could have been brought on by the smoking and everything else, and sexual impotency and all, the uterus will be. And remember, the first statement I made was Dr. Ike said the only thing I discovered was the orgonotic pulsation. Now, if the uterus is that the energy, and if the uterus can not pulsating like this, pulsating like that, it's going to affect the fetus, right? But
Is the
work has to be
implication
done.
is the implication that if you make it out of the fetus intact, healthy, that you're not likely to succumb to emotional disease?
Oh yes, sure. Even classical in classical cancer, they talk about genetic predisposition, you know, for cancer, certain cancers. But they said that the nurturing could change it. So one doesn't contradict the other. Anything else? No?
Well,
Go ahead.
just given today, like the prevalence of medication for patients of psychology and things like that, do you think that Reich's work would be well received today? I mean, it just seems like
That's going to predominate now for a good long while because the number of combinations, chemical combinations that can be made as tranquilizers and narcotics is countless, you know. So as one, after a while, has its day, then another one's developed, which you see all the time. I can't keep up with them. I mean, maybe Eric knows them all now.
Try.
You tried too, huh? So that's going to last for a long time. That's what Dr. Eck said. If he had the power, he'd put everything in his work into limbo until the next 2, 3, 4 generations.
Apparently it's going to be more generations than he perhaps originally thought, because the way that I see it is that there's one concept that seems to be winding down the orgonomic concept as far as being popular or being known, and other concepts like short-term therapies and things like that are really taking the field. And it seems like it's going to be maybe another 3 or 4 generations from this
Time will tell.
before that changes.
There's one psychiatrist. He was in training and everything, but he never. Well, he went into. He did therapy, organ therapy for a while, and his family, his wife, had a big need for money and all like that. And I see him every so often. In fact, he has a place out in Fire Island. I played tennis with him. So he went into really, in fact, he's the editor of one of the journals on psychopharmacology. And he said, "Come on, Vic." He said, "Start writing some articles. You make a lot of money." And I said, "No." Last summer I saw him. He said, "Vic," he says, "I'm back into electric shock therapy. You can't believe the money I'm making." So, that's poor orgonomist.
One more question. question about the blood. When the energy is so sapped that the cell starts to degenerate, and at the point that it